Hello everyone, I'm Olshi, and on this channel we talk about manga, comics, and anything art related really. Today I want to talk about perfectionism. I think amongst all kinds of struggles a manga or comic artist can have, perfectionism is one of the worst, or rather most common culprits. In my opinion, it is an enemy we need to fight. Throw perfectionism out the window. But why and how? Well, the why is easier to answer than the how, so let's start with it. To be honest, most people probably agree that perfectionism is not exactly good, but we still pursue it. In a way, we can even be proud of it. Is it bad to pursue improvement? Is it bad to strive to do better, to be professional? And of course it isn't. The opposite of perfectionism is not caring about the quality of your work at all. As long as your work is finished, it's fine. This way we sometimes don't try to maybe see whether we can draw a pose better, or maybe we just write a scene half-heartedly just to have a transition between two important scenes. This is kinda how I used to be with my drawings, not my story though, I think. To me, being done with the manga pages was the most important thing. Even when I knew a panel didn't look good, I often didn't change it and just let it be. In a way, it was good because I drew a chapter quicker, but it all came at the expense of me not improving my drawing skills as well as I could have. And I actually still sometimes see it with some other artists who are more goal and not process oriented, just like me. So in order to improve my skills, I kinda had to learn perfectionism, trying harder, see whether I can improve some panels, maybe change the perspective, add a background, or draw the hair more detailed. And I improved. Especially since I started drawing the manga pages digitally, as correcting things is a lot easier this way. So perfectionism is not bad, right? I mean, you already know the answer. It lies somewhere in between. A bit of perfectionism is fine. A lot of manga artists who describe themselves as perfectionists manage to produce manga professionally. So perfectionism doesn't prevent them from finishing their projects. Where perfectionism does turn out to be bad is when you never manage to finish this project of yours that you need to be perfect. But it can be even worse than that. It might prevent you from even starting. Perfectionism can be a root cause for procrastination, so setting impossible to achieve standards for yourself starts even before you actually start. You need a perfect plan, a perfect time, a perfect amount of motivation, and so on. But all of these things will never align perfectly. And you know that. I'm not saying you shouldn't try for improvement, but if your perfectionism prevents you from even starting, then you are definitely prioritizing the wrong things. Maybe don't put quality first, put it second or third. You don't have to put it aside altogether, but don't let it be your biggest priority. In a way, perfectionism might even be cowardly. We hide behind the perfectionism because we're scared of failing, criticism, and just general dissatisfaction with our work. We have this perfect image of ourselves as creators or artists. We have high standards and we can easily recognize when a piece of art is good or bad. We have trained our taste, we have become good critics, and when we finally finish this perfect piece of art, everyone recognizes what a genius we are. And then money, fame, and so on will follow. But can we hold up to those standards we set for ourselves? And what about the standards of others? Criticism is scary. CJ the X says it more bluntly in a very tough love way.
Perfectionism is not like an inherently bad impulse, but you have to earn that. You don't get to be a perfectionist if it is unproven up to this point if you can even make a thing. First, you have to prove you can just start, develop, complete, and release anything. To complete and release or perform a piece is an essential part of the creative process. And if you're not doing it, you have not experienced the full cycle. You have not done the artist thing yet. You're not perfecting your craft. You're shielding yourself from vulnerability.
Ouch. But they're right. What is the purpose of creating something? Is it for that creation to be liked by everyone? I would rather say it's about communicating your ideas to whoever is willing to read your creation. So the fear of failure is rather not being able to communicate the story the way you want to communicate it. But you will never be able to know whether you communicate right if you don't communicate. Thinking about whether people will like your story over and over again is kinda pointless. You won't know it until it's out there and people can actually see and read it. And there is vulnerability to it. You expose yourself to criticism of an audience who, let's be honest, have a ton of media to choose from. So yeah, it's kinda brutal, but also fascinating. View your artwork as an experiment. Did you get the kind of reaction you were hoping for? No? Try again. See how you can improve. Now that my manga Bad Dog on Good Boy has been published for over a month, I get some reviews for it. And I'm aware that I mostly get positive reviews because people are still pretty nice to German-speaking authors, because we are still pretty small creators basically and our resources are limited. But among those reviews, my favorite ones are, it's the reviews that really understood what I wanted the manga to be about. I was able to communicate my ideas. And this way I feel a connection to these readers, and even though I don't know them, I'm grateful. And not all reviews spot the themes I was trying to communicate. So maybe I wasn't quite as good at building these themes as I wanted to, but it's enough for me to know that there are some people who get it. And next time I can try and do better. Isn't this why we tell stories? Not to be perfect, but to be able to bring across a message or a feeling. Some of you might say that it's not the expectations of others that are scary, but your own expectations. You are your own worst critic. And that's true for a lot of artists, and it's not always easy to deal with it. In her blog post about perfectionism, Oily Weiss, a self-published manga artist from Germany, writes, "It's hard to fight against perfectionism. On the one hand, it drives me to improve the quality of my work, but there are also times where my all or nothing thoughts bring me out of balance. I recognize what I should have done better, which in of itself isn't a bad thing, but at the same time, there are times when the urge just to redo everything is so high, and it troubles me that the manga isn't as good as it could have been. It doesn't feel great to know that the foundations your story is built on has flaws. I would love to say that I fully stand by everything that I do, but in reality there are two sides in me fighting each other. Of course I don't want to let the dark side win, but even though my positive thoughts and stubbornness outweigh the negativity, there's always an afterthought of, you should have done this so and so, prevailing in my work. I want to learn to accept the flaws in my work, so I can fully stand by it, even when my skills and opinions change over time. I think Oily Weiss describes perfectly this dichotomy a lot of manga artists feel, seeing what you have done with your work and seeing the mistakes. But as she says in this paragraph, acceptance is the way to go. The hard reality of when you publish a manga is the first pages of the story will always be the worst, skill-wise, because you keep improving. But you created something, and you are being an artist, experience it all, the good and the bad. So being self-critical is part of it. So learn how to love your flawed baby. And your work is not always just about you. It's about you and the reader. How someone sees your work depends on many factors. What do they usually read? What are their experiences? What are their preferred aesthetics? How does their brain work? You will never be in full control of how someone sees your work. So while the reader matters, you will still never be able to please everyone. And since there is no way to control the reaction, just let it go and do whatever you as a reader would love. Honestly, perfectionism is really not surprising. We as society value performance and productivity, so our value as human beings is often connected to how well we do. So much depends on it. So I get it, I understand where it comes from. But it's also not helpful, so let's try to get rid of it. As I said in the beginning, I am not a perfectionist, but as I was doing my research for this video to understand what perfectionism even means, I realized that I'm might have some perfectionist tendencies, only it might look different to what I expected it to be. Perfectionism might look different to each person. To me, being perfect always meant to be productive, to be quick in my tasks. And since I have been, let's just say, burned out, I have lost this ability. So now I suddenly have to accept that I cannot be as fast and productive as I used to be. And it's hard, but it's also okay. And it's okay to be sad about it. Acceptance takes time. I know that putting aside perfectionism is hard. Try to do it slowly. Ask yourself, what is the worst thing that will happen if your work is not perfect? How will it make you feel? Is it really gonna be that bad? Won't it actually be also positive because you finished something? In the end, a flawed but finished piece of art will always be 100% better than a perfect one, which only exists in your imagination. So go and create. Okay, this is it. Thank you for watching this video. I hope it was helpful. Topics like motivation, perfectionism and such are a bit difficult as it always has a psychological side to it. And since I am not a psychologist, the advice I can give is quite limited. Writing the script was a bit challenging, so I want to thank my Ko-fi supporters for being there and allowing me the time to finish a more or less coherent script. This video was supposed to come out in May, but since the release of my manga Bad Dog and Good Boy, I have been traveling basically every weekend, so I wasn't able to finish this on time. But here it is, so thank you for your patience and thank you for still supporting me. I will try to release another video this month. It will be another writing vlog. So if you don't want to miss it, then subscribe to this channel if you haven't done so already. Also feel free to leave any thoughts or feedback in the comment section and to press the like button. You can also follow me on my social media, read my manga and other me online, or support me on Ko-fi. All the links will be in the description box. Again, thank you for watching this video and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye!